XRP price broke higher. We came back, retested and bounced. That's short-term scenario. The price is moving. But now the question comes like, why should you own XRP? Why should you buy XRP? I'm going to give you the reason why I bought into XRP and why I am holding on to it as time goes on. These are documents from IMF. These are documents from World Bank. These are documents through the financial institutions, the G7 report, the G20 report. All of them are coming towards one name. All of them are showing you one perspective. The cross-border payment, the liquidity, the settlement, all of those, you get it directly. When they use words like multilateral organizations, third party, and in one document they may not directly give you a report. They'll just say we are going to use a multilateral institution, third party, to do this, and in another document they say we have a multilateral organization which is Ripple. For me, that doesn't make much of a headache to digest what they are really showing you, because in all of these, when they say interledgers being used to do this and do that, yes, it's so easy. It's the World Bank report highlighting it's very promising. Why? Because they just tested this Ether and XRP ledger. They would basically understood one thing in that one. When you use Ether, what's your cost? What's the time taken for that? And when you're using interledger and then XRP ledger, what's your time taken? What's your cost associated with it? And all of this come back into the fundamentals. So if you are looking at why you should own XRP and what's happening in different parts of the world and in detail for the architecture for the central bank digital currencies, that's the holy grail. Central bank digital currencies, central banks, the government institutions, and others don't actually want to build their own infrastructure, the architecture to move money. They want something else. They want something which is already built, scalable, frictionless. And I'm going to give you the details of what they say. It's not about what we speculate. It's about what they say. So stay tuned till the end and you are going to get it. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now we see the price just bounced from the support which we broke above, and that's all great. So if you ask, okay, was that predictable? Yes, just the difference is we don't know when it's going to bounce, but the chances are high it's going to bounce. That's what I said before this happened to my patrons, that this is an opportunity if you are going to enter here, right? Then it's not only one coin you have, there's a lot of different opportunities evolving in the market, and that's what we post in the Patreon on a regular basis. So you now have information on which asset is doing what and where there has been a breakout, what you are looking at, and what you are going to do with different assets if you are trading in this market. Because in this market you have a ton of different assets where you should be aware of what opportunity is rising, what's the liquidity in that, and then whether you should move on to that one or not. Now, before we jump on to the technicals, we really have to go through these. Now, I won't be taking you through the entire document, but giving you the right perspective of what's important for us. So this is the BIS working paper. Now, we have seen a lot of them, and this one is important. Why? This came out on November 2021. That's now. Right, so when you go through this, you're going to actually see the updated information of what the central banks are eyeing at, because these are guys who guide them, showing what can be done, what could be, the next few years, how it can look like and all. And then you reach here when they talk about how they're going to look at the future of money, and that's in an era of central bank digital currencies, and they say 86% of the global central banks are already on it. Now, yes, some of them are really slow, because when we talk about this, they are not just talking about proof of work. Now, in these reports, they are clearly highlighting proof of work is not useful, and they really understand this. So it's not just the XRP community saying consensus algorithm is better, but it's this Bank of International Settlements, it's the G7, it's the G20, all of them coming out and saying, okay, we don't think Bitcoin can be used for this one. So when you see Bitcoin maximalists saying, okay, Bitcoin is going to be the reserve asset, boom, blah, boom, Now, give it a break here. You go through all these documents, and when you see this one, it's clear, it's easy. Even if you have food one time a day, this is going to be easy to digest. Believe me, this is not that hard. Anyone can read through it and understand. It's showing you whether it can be a wholesale central bank digital currency or a retail. You have different type of approaches taken by different governments, but all of them conclude that this is possible. Now, the difference is whether it's going to be an authoritarian country like China, where they come out and kick you and say, okay, use it, or a democratic one. We'll have to see how these evolve. But as you move through time and you see this, like say Bahamas, they have already gone with the live central bank digital currency. You see Ecuador, they are going in. You see China, they are at that final phase. And at the bottom you see US, it's just speech. So they started doing the speech early 2017, and till now they don't have anything else. So we are looking like the biggest economy in the world, the superpower, blah blah blah, not doing anything for the future of money. Why? Because it's the banking cartel who is trying to slow this down, who is trying to push that country to the ground. That's what we can easily understand when you see all the other countries, including China, including Great Britain, Japan, Korea, and all the other countries doing this progressively. You are seeing pilot programs. It's not just speech, it's pilot programs. The report after the pilot program, whether that was successful. What are you going to do? What's the next and all? And you see US is still lagging. So that's a main parameter there. Now, when you go through these documents, motivation to use this is high. Now, I'll actually take this directly from there and show you. First was the rapid rise in the interest in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that compete the traditional form of money. So that's how they actually show this. They come to this and they highlight, to use them as a means of payment. So when Bitcoin maximalists today will argue that it's not the payment, it's not about the transaction per second, it's not about the cost associated with it, it's the storage of value, it's the store of value. Just tell them, go back to the white paper for what Bitcoin was created. You'll see a peer-to-peer payment network. So that's not that hard to digest. It's so easy, and it as the first objective of peer-to-peer payment, I'll say it's failed. Great. Now we move on. Now these are all the latest stuff you are reading this year. Say, for instance, it is estimated that, now this is latest, it is estimated that the Bitcoin network currently uses as much electricity as Netherlands. That's coming directly. The citation is going to Bank of International Settlement 2021. That's so important. You have to understand why. When we go through the G7 report, when we go to the G20 report, you're going to see something similar being highlighted there. So again, read this. Bitcoin in particular has few redeeming public interest attributes when its wasteful energy consumption is taken into account, and that's giving you clear. It's like Netherlands. It's eating energy like a country. So if you want to stay in that coin, and okay, it's completely up to you. Now, why am I highlighting this? Because this is the one extreme of it where, it's kind of waste of energy, friction, cost of money, blah, blah, blah. And we are going to go to the other end where it's ESG, the environmental, social governance kind of stuff comes into play for the liquidity pool. So now you reach this area. Why is it so important? Now, we also have highlighted different assets which are going to be important in the next couple of years, because the big tech, the governments, all are looking into your personal data, how it can be used on blockchains, the third party which can progress, which has that fundamentals, which has that network, and there are a couple of them which has value, right? Couple of assets which are going to deal with this, which we are already watching them dealing with this in different area of the world. So as you go through, you're going to read different stuff. Now, one of the important steps from here would be the architecture on which the central bank digital currencies would be working on, the multilateral which are entering in here. So what's the main purpose of this? Yes, financial inclusion is there. I agree. Yes, payment efficiency is there, which is the most important parameter for any value exchange mechanism, right? So you come here, payment security, safety, robustness, all of them goes in. So now you can argue there's a lot of different assets which are being considered, lot of different networks which are being considered. Now we've been all one-on-one sessions when we were talking about Ripple, we were talking about Quant, we were talking about XDC and other assets, and you see how the price movement has been in a couple of others. So now what are you waiting for? The blast off in this one. Now yes, as you continue forward, you're actually looking at different stuff. What kind of central bank digital currency is going to be implemented? Let it be normal stuff, let it be a hybrid type, we don't know. But as you continue, you are going to see which architecture it's going to work on. And this is important because central banks does not really want to create a new architecture from the scratch and go on it. Read this through and you're going to understand what I'm talking about. It's the IntelliJ protocol where everything is going to come, because that is the infrastructure created for this purpose. And now when Ripple, the company, is going high, and they are going to give you all the details of what's happening right now in the world, and all of them working with them, that's hybrid class. Now you go through this and you see these architectures are not that government ones, in which private sector conducts all retail payments while central bank operates backup infrastructure. Understand it, it's in the private sector. Now, as you continue reading through this, you're going to get like, okay, so for the wholesale central bank digital currency, this is the aspect we are looking at. For the retail, this one is what we are eyeing at. Now, all of this is really important because we are not directly talking about the direct CBDC where everything is handled by the central bank. Now we are talking about the two-tier system where it can be hybrid, where it can be intermediated, but both of them you see intermediaries working on this system, because the entire infrastructure has been created by big guys, like Ripple, like Quant, and they are working on it. So when you talk about permissionless technology, when you talk about permission technology, all of them comes in ties up. Now, you go through this. There is a research article which came out recently from MDPI, and it's actually the future internet. So now the title is like a digital currency architecture for privacy and custodianship. So when you come through this, you'll actually go through all different stuff which these researchers went through. They actually went in deep. If you want to read through it, I'm going to put this in the description below, so you don't waste time. If you want to read through that, you can completely do that. All these links will be in the description, so you can read through it. Now, why am I highlighting this? People come out and say, okay, Visa is like this, Visa is like that. They do like 65,000. Now, this is the researchers who are highlighting, okay, even though Visa argues that it's doing 65,000 transactions per second, its actual throughput is not more than 1,700. Now, Ripple is like 1,500, so that's huge. Now, that's online transactions. So when you consider offline too, yeah, Visa can go through 65,000 and Ripple net can do it up to 50,000, which is huge compared to any other networks right now, considering the network growth, the expansion, how many people have came into this. Now, this is the Billion Group, which is highlighting the Digital Pound Foundation. So when you come down there, you actually see this, right? Electronium, Quant, Ripple, Accenture. If you want to read through this, that's great. It's going to give you a lot of wisdom for next some time. Now, this is the G7 report, and I'm going to just show you what it looks like and then come back. Now, you have a lot of different parameters here, but understand, energy and environment is an important aspect. If you saw what was highlighted in the Bank of International Settlements, now you understand what they are eyeing on. Why? Because they are talking about faster, cheaper, more inclusive, convenient, efficient payment solutions to support this. So when we are talking about a private third party, you're going to look at the level of interoperability they would be giving you. There's no doubt. It's the infrastructure on which payments are going to work. Whether you can speculate, whether you can do this, do that, it's not about that. It's directly given to you by these. They are highlighting this in such an easy manner. If you are reading through all the documents, now you have the understanding, okay, you know what they are really talking about. So they are talking about the banking, the unbanked, the financial inclusion, cross-border functionality, cross-border payment, interoperability across all the different ledgers. This all directly comes from single idea, right? Now you go into the G20 roadmap. Now you again have a big data there, so you won't be able to cover everything. So I'll take you the last part of this, the role of new payment infrastructure and arrangements, right? So say that's 24, we are going to reach here in 23, right? Yeah, 20. So now when you go through this, you're going to ask like, okay, what is CPMI? Okay, I need to know what's ISO. I need to know what World Bank is thinking. These are big guys in payments where they are trying to enhance the cross-border payments using APIs. Now, if you have already seen VolunteerPay and Ripple and they work together, now you already understood, okay, what's happening behind the screen. Now, come to this page. You're starting here, the new role of payment infrastructure, and you see a lot of different stuff there. They're talking about IMF, BIS, World Bank, cost benefit for multilateral platforms by June 2022. That's important, by June 2022. Now, keep that in mind, keep the date in mind, keep that hammered in your mind. Now, come down, you read through all this and you're going to reach a conclusion, okay. Now, it's not me putting conclusion in you. You can read it and reach your own conclusion. But I'm saying what I personally think is that next year is going to be that year where you're going to see the utility case pumping through this. Now, you can argue whatever you want to say, whatever you want to do. But you look at all these timeline and you're like, okay, fine. So that's like, okay, this is going to happen by that time frame. So this is just one document giving you one idea, which is from the G20. So you go through it and you understood that, okay, for the roadmap of cross-border payments using the new technologies is like this. That's great. That's not bad. Now, what's the next important stuff there? Now, as we highlighted first in G20 roadmap, when you're actually coming down, say to page number 10, I guess, you actually see this. Taking forward the roadmap and looking at what we are eyeing for 2022. So we just talked about June 2022, something is going to happen. But now, as you come down, you are talking about these and like, okay, great. What are you eyeing for? Q4 2021, that's this year. Liquidity bridges exploration. 11/20/21. So that's happening right now. So I'm like, okay, I really don't know what kind of announcement are going to come from swell event of Ripple, but based on what I can see in G20, then the financial stability board, I'm like, this is going to be massive. I don't know how many of you are actually giving proper attention to this, but liquidity bridges, I don't know hundreds of liquidity bridges in this 15,000 assets in this asset class. I only know like one or two, and in which only one actually has the ability with the infrastructure to provide the ISO and the interoperability throughout. So they can look at the corridor risks. They are going to look at that for sure. But now you see this. Payment system access best practices, API standards. You are going to eye all of this, and as we just saw, by the mid next year, you are going to put this one. What? Liquidity bridges framework. Q2 2022. How many of you understand this? I don't know, but I'm going to give you all these documents in the description so you don't miss anything. If you want clarity, read through this. Now, we have gone through this because it's all about the cross-border payments, which is the area where Ripple, the company, has been hammering on, diving deep into. Private and public sector involvement and action will be key in achieving these targets. It's not just governments coming out and saying, we are going to do this, we are doing this. Why? When you come down this government report, say there's another one which is, Congressional Research Service, and you actually see international financial messaging. Now, this is also this year, right? So when you come down, you actually see them talking about blockchain. Now, when we say blockchain, it's not about the hundreds of other stuff which you are going to see there. It's only two names which are being highlighted there. One, is Ripple, a California-based fintech company, and then JP Morgan. Now JP Morgan is because they, it's JP Morgan, yeah, it's they because only because of JP Morgan, and they influence, not because of the technology. Now look at this, a range of private sector entities including fintechs, established financial institutions, and they are already moving into frictions and trying to ease that in cross-border payments, right? So that's a huge opportunity there. And now you see Ripple, RippleNet, and the important stuff here is hundreds of financial institutions in over 55 countries. So if a clearing institution want to get into with a huge network, this is what they are going to look at. So that's financial messaging and clearing and settlement coming through this system with the highest transparency. You can literally trade this because it's going to give you that level of information where you're like, the World Bank is saying this, great. You see all over the news, great. And if you don't really understand what Interledger is and how it works, I'm going to put this one in the description too. You can read it because that's going to give you that wisdom of what you're going to look at in the next 3 years, next 4 years. Invest based on that. It's not financial advice. It's the thought process of how I do things. And if you see value there, you're going to have money coming into you. You go in the direction of money, you make money. Flow with the money, you make money. If you're going to do that opposite, it's completely up to you guys. But if you receive value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That supports the channel a lot. And looking at technical side, we have done that always. We would be posting all the updates in the Patreon. Don't worry, and if you want to get updates for these, you can definitely look at the Patreon where we would be posting all the information for a lot of different assets which you want to eye at. If you are a trader, medium term trader. Now, if you are a short-term trader, don't come there. If you are medium to long-term investor thought process, you can definitely look at that. So, guys, I'll be meeting on you on the next video. Bye for now.